Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. As I always say, it's my favorite event of the year, these SIGs, the North America one and this one. Get to see how the product's used, get to see how the customers are getting benefits from it. And thank you all for coming here. It's a great event. So I haven't been here. I'm Jim Mooney, by the way. You can see my name up there. I run the development for Oracle Logistics. Okay, now on to the fun stuff. Some of what I will talk about, most of what I talk about is all in the product. Srini's our futures guy, so he'll have a lot of futures. And I'd say 99% of what I'm talking about here will be current, but there will be a few futures, so I keep the safe harbor in there. And I'm going to go through our release plans, as always, quick on-premise update, a little bit on cloud, then on cloud projects, which are those things outside the product, some of the things that are just cloud related. And then I'm going to repeat something that I did in North America this year, which is what we view, the development team, we went through what we viewed as the 25 product reasons for OTM success, for the reason that OTM is the market leader, the Magic Quadrant leader for the last 15, 16 years. So product reasons, not other reasons, but product reasons. Then I have a couple of wrap-up topics I'd like to share, get your support on, and then, of course, questions at the end. So, on-premise first. These are the releases that I think are out there being used. There's probably some older ones being used, but these are the ones that are mostly being used. As you can see, 6.5.2 is still, it extended by a month, so those of you using 6.5.2, it's still under patching support. But after this month, I think we're doing a patch in April. After April, there won't be any more patches on 6.5.2. So the only patch supported version will be 6.5.3, and that will be patched until the end of 2026. So it's coming up. And after that, we will only provide what's called sustaining support. So if you're on-premise, you find a new issue, we won't be able to fix it. We won't ship security patches, but those are the two differences between what the support you get today and the support you will get in 2027, is that we won't ship security patches and we won't provide new patches. You can still call us, you can still log SRs, you can still get existing patches. So if there's a patch out there that we've fixed and you want to download, all that stuff is available. Just those two things of getting new patches will not be available. And we've had a lot of people move, and thank you to the people in this, customers in this room that have moved. Had a lot of people do the move from on-prem to cloud, so a lot of experience. As Richard was saying, they've done a dozen or more. I know other partners that have done the same amount. But it's a project. It doesn't just happen. You should take that time to rethink what you've done, because some of you, especially on-premise customers, they may have been using OTM or GTM for 10, 15 plus years. It's a good time to rethink some of the, maybe not data. You can bring all your data, bring all your, setup and all that, but it's a good time to rethink your configuration that's probably grown over the years. Okay. So switch gears to cloud. That's it for on-prem. If anybody has any questions on it, certainly grab me while we're here. Cloud will continue the same way we've been doing. We do 3 releases a year, A, B, and C. We skip a lot of the other products do 4, so they do the end of year. We don't do the end of year. And there's no big events. Like we've had some events in the cloud where we've had to move people from from the old data centers to new data centers. There are a couple of projects going on, which I'll talk to you about, but no big events, just your typical A, B, and C releases that we have coming up over the next 2 years, this year and 2026. And we continue to deliver on the cloud. We continue to deliver fixes. We continue to deliver a lot of enhancements. You can see that our A releases have more enhancements. That's because it's a longer release. We don't have a D release, so we go from our C release up to A, so we have a lot more time. We take a lot more of your ideas into that release. Of those enhancements, many of them are driven by your idea labs, the things that you submit into that idea lab, into that Cloud Customer Connect. So keep that coming. We do look at that with every release. We look at it and see, while we're working on a certain area, take in your ideas. Okay, so now some of the cloud projects we're working on. Again, these are things that are outside of the, kind of the core product. They're not enhancements inside the product. First, our regions, we continue to expand our support. And for our OTM, GTM, and our WMS, we're two separate deployments, but we align. We've now have pretty well aligned all the data centers we're available in. So if you're using WMS, OTM should be in that data center that you're working in. And if you're using OTM, WMS should be there as well. And I think new on this list is Canada and Dubai and Brazil. So those are the kind of new ones since probably the last time I was here. But we don't. There's a lot more data centers that Oracle supports. We kind of take them as we see the demand. So as we see demand for some of our logistics products, we'll go into that region of the world, that data center. And two projects, there's a lot of projects we're doing on the cloud side. There's a lot of things we're doing on advanced security and a bunch of other things that are probably not interesting to a lot of you. But the two that I think will affect people the most, one is Oracle Analytics Cloud. I put OAC up there. That's our acronym for it. So today, all the reporting that you do, whether it's kind of the operational reports or the business intelligence, is done inside of OTM in a product called OAS, which is actually the on-premise version of OAC, so the cloud. And we embed that inside of our instance. And that has a couple, it's a good product, and so is the cloud product, of course. That's why we're moving to it. But by moving that out and moving it into the cloud, we will further be able to reduce our downtime that happens with our quarterly updates. And we'll be able to get onto the latest version of that analytics cloud. So you'll see more features, more capability coming out of that when we get to that. That time frame is this year that we're going to start. First, like we do with a lot of new things, we're going to deliver it to new customers first, so that we get them running, make sure it works okay and everything, and then we'll start a migration of existing customers from their current reporting to this new reporting. So that migration should happen later this year or early next year. The one that is ongoing now is the autonomous database migration. Again, a newer, better version of the Oracle database. We have over 75% of our customers already on this. because we started with new customers using it a couple of years ago. And we've done a number of migrations already that started last year. There is a two-step process. We update your database with some parameter changes, trying to get your database ready. And then we do the actual move to autonomous. We notify you when this is happening. There's a schedule. We give you like a month notice or so to get ready for it. What you have to do is really just test some of you, basically queries, because that's the biggest thing we've seen, is just test some of your queries, some of the main processes you have. That's all we ask you to do in this migration to ATP. We take care of all of it. But the advantages to Autonomous Database, that is the tool that we use for our machine learning applications. So until you get to that, you won't be able to use some of our machine learning capabilities. So it's a good thing to get to it, and we should be able, I think we're on target to get everybody moved over to autonomous, the remaining people over by September of this year. Okay. Okay, now on to product reasons. So as I mentioned, this is really product reasons. The real reason, I think, for the OTM success, GTM success, is the people. So it's the people that designed it, developed it. It's the partners that we have, the great community that we have, this event, the people that attend it, the SIG boards that we have. I think it's a real unique thing, and of course, our customers that use it. You know, all of you that use the product. That's really the reason for the success. But we wanted to go back, almost go back in time, since 1999 was when G-Log was formed. 2020 was when we had our first live customer. So it's kind of a 25-year anniversary thing, which is why we picked 25 product reasons. So I'll start with a couple that you can't really choose to use. Go down. There we go. First, just for those of you who don't have the background, we did form G-Log in May of '99 and were acquired by Oracle in 2005. We then added on GTM and Fleet in 2009 and moved to the cloud in 2014, delivered LNM and a bunch of other stuff later on. So that's kind of the timeline of major events that happened from the time we started G-Log to today. And again, it was really hard to go in and pick, to narrow down what are the 25 things that make the product great. But we kind of went through that process and came down to it. I will touch on each one of these very quickly. I'm not going to go through them here, but I do have a slide for each one. And maybe I've cheated a little bit, maybe done 2 slides for one. So let's start with architecture. And this isn't something that you can control or choose. I do think another reason for showing you these 25 things is that some of you have been around the product for a while. You may have forgotten what's in there, or some of you may have done an implementation where you've just focused on a particular problem you have and didn't really realize the breadth of the product. So I think this will give you a nice, for some of you, go back and say, hey, maybe I should go use that feature. Or someone say, hey, I didn't know it had that capability. Let's take a look at that. So the first one is not something you control really, but it is the same architecture that we started with, at least the initial design back in 1999. We have changed it a lot, tuned it a lot, followed the different product versions and improved it a lot. But that whole multi-threaded, highly capable kind of processing engines that we have, the built-in algorithms right into the working right off the operational data. All that stuff is architecture that's stood the test of time and was able, and I'll talk about this on my last slide, but it was one of the only products at Oracle that started off on-prem that moved to cloud without having to change its architecture. So a lot of the other products that were on-premise had to move, but because had to change architectures, but because OTM had the architecture for the cloud, we did not have to do that. We did have a lot of automation work to do to move to the cloud, but not a lot of re-architecture. Second point, and really important to this audience, is building a global and multimodal data model. Our first live customer that I spoke of in 2020 was a international ocean shipper. So we kind of built from the very beginning. We looked at the market. The market was going global. There were not a lot of TMSs that had global capability. So we put it in our name because we knew it was that important for GLOG was global logistics. And then we built, the very first thing was build a data model, build capabilities for supporting all the different geographies, all the different units of measure, all the different modes, and having the ability to tie them together. In addition to that, probably every consultant's favorite in the room is that flexible data model, all those different objects you have to extend our data model. So we had, the core objects, all the fields you see in orders and shipments and invoices, but then because no two customers implement the same way or have the same processes around transportation, we built all these add-on capabilities for reference numbers, remarks, statuses, so you can drag all that extra data around and actually control, with some of the features I'll talk about in a minute, control your flow based on your own data. So agent workflow and user SQL, this is probably the main capability that differentiates us, the ability to control how the flow works and how it, how you want your process to happen and what you want it to be triggered on, whether you want it to be triggered on data that we have inside of our orders and shipments or data that you provide in a ref number or remark. This is kind of the heart of our system for flowing, for the actual flow of data through the system. And I think this was, when I presented this at the North America SIG, I think everyone kind of agreed this was probably the, kind of one of the top features for OTM success, because I think it allowed the consultants to be able to deliver, and for the people that have self-implemented, allow them to deliver capabilities that their business users ask for. Hey, I have this strange requirement where on Tuesdays, this data comes in, I have to react this way. It's exactly what this workflow and SQL allows you to do. Of course, it's one of our biggest support challenges, trying to figure out what's happening inside of all of this agent configuration and specialized SQL. But that's the fun. That's why we have fun. Next is that our orders and shipments really, our structures really match the real world. So we have, not everyone uses them, but we have order bases which match purchase orders and sales orders. We have order releases which match a released quantity from one of those order bases. We have order movements which actually are the movement of that order release throughout the network the different movements that it might take. And then we have shipments and shipment groups, just these different objects that really match the real world. And that's what's driven, been able to let you kind of manage your transportation inside of OTM. And then we recognized that there wasn't a really good way in the industry to, for inbound, to be able to know when product is ready to ship. So you can get a purchase order. The purchase order doesn't tell you, it might be a blanket order, might be for the whole year. It doesn't tell you when you do that, when the actual release is ready. So we have build a whole screen and build it probably several times, maybe had a dozen different versions of it, but we did have a screen to support that inbound flow so that your vendors can come in and release those orders and get them moving through your transportation network. And this is another one that, again, probably one of the top flexibility things is that we built a rating engine from the very beginning, just like we built the geographic data and the unit of measure and all those other things. We knew that we needed a rating engine that would be not the traditional, just here's a truckload rate, here's an LTL rate. We saw all those rates kind of coming together. There was truckload rates that looked like LTL rates that looked like truckload. Some were based on miles, some were based on weight. We saw ocean freight, being merged in. We saw a lot of different things. So we decided, let's take all the knowledge we have about transportation. We'd already been in transportation for a number of years, and build in some flexibility. So we can put in all this logic for parcel rates, LTL rates, truckload rates, and then build in some flexibility so that, again, like those extra fields, you'll be able to control rating beyond what we do. And I think we have a very strong engine for doing that. I don't think we've ever met a rate we haven't been able to model. Another key piece is just that our application was built for integration. We realized that OTM doesn't just sit out there on an island. It is tied in the middle of a lot of other applications. And if it's going to be successful, it's going to have to integrate very well. We're going to have a lot of APIs. We're going to have a lot of support for things like changes, deletes, updates. Just all that is built into that integration layer. We have a very strong integration layer that supports the flows through, not just internal flows between your ERP systems and beyond, but also with all of your partners. And of course, what I just spoke about with OAC, we have built-in reporting. So that goes from kind of the ability to export some of our screens through writing reports inside a BI publisher, which is the previous term for OAC. So you can have canned reports, and then on top of that, the next level would be our built-in transportation intelligence. So I know a lot of people here, because we also have the ability to export our data out of the cloud, to copy our data out of the cloud. A lot of people use external tools for doing reporting. I always recommend to people you should do a combination. So if something's kind of a transportation only report, you want it to be real time, you want it to happen, you want to do a bill of lading, you want to do a load list, you want to do things like that. You should just use our built-in reporting. It doesn't cost you anything extra to do it. It runs, you can configure it right inside of OTM. And then if you have, kind of a business, your company uses a third-party tool for data warehousing, export our data and use that tool. Workbenches. So we started off OTM with the many of the screens that you're familiar with, the Finder results, the managers, so you can go in and edit them. And after a while, we got the feedback like, hey, I'm moving around into a lot of screens. I got a lot of windows open. So we built this workbench, and we built it, I want to say 3 times, 3 different architectures, but now we're on one that we really like. It matches our architecture of the system. It's a Java-based architecture, and it's built for the future. So our enhanced workbenches, which is what the current version is called now, is a way for you to do all of your work without having to leave that one kind of cockpit where you can do that. So you can see orders, shipments, maps, Gants, all in one place. And I know, again, some of the older implementations may not have taken advantage of this, or may have tried kind of earlier versions of workbenches. If you haven't used these, you definitely should. It's a really strong point in the product. We have a lot of our integrations. We're doing a lot of integrations between our Fusion products that what we call deep links, so you can be inside of our ERP system, be able to go into and transfer directly into a transportation screen. The screens that we code that up for going into are these workbench screens, because that's where most of the capabilities are now. We also have a mobile app, and our mobile app traditionally, again, it's probably followed the same path as our workbenches, is that it went through a couple of technologies, probably 3, and we're on one now that we really like. And it's so we've been growing that capability. So far, our mobile app has been geared towards your partners, geared towards carriers, drivers, people like that use it. So we're kind of used it to give them an easy to use way to let you know that they're moving those shipments. So we've added a lot of capability around those partners. You'll see coming up, we're going to extend that a little bit into some internal users, so that you can use the mobile app same kind of way, a more streamlined approach to get order shipment statuses, so you can know kind of quickly, if you're not at the office, be able to bring up your phone and see what's going on. So we will be moving that into there, but good so far. The adoption of the new one is we've gotten some good feedback on it. As I mentioned, in 2009, we built global trade on top of the OTM architecture. So I know there's some global trade users inside in this group here, but it is something that Oracle used as soon as we built it. So we built it in 2009. By the summer of 2009, Oracle was using it internally to do denied party screening. So really, there's whole markets, competitors. In fact, when Oracle, we made this decision, we went out and looked at the other vendors out there, because Oracle was in a acquisition mode at that time. We looked to buy it, but there really wasn't anybody we wanted to buy. So we decided to build, which is an unusual thing for Oracle at that time, to actually build something instead of buy. Now we build a lot, but back then we were in acquisition mode. So we built this, and it's turned out to be a good choice, because it's started off with a lot of our early GTM customers just using GTM, but now we've built a lot of flows between OTM and GTM, because we see a lot more overlap, a lot more OTM customers working with GTM, so we have some more flows in there. And GTM, just for completeness, it's not just one piece. It's product classification, of course, big part of what we do. Restricted party screening, of course, that's where we started, being able to not ship to the bad guys. trade agreements, which we've been expanding on over the last several releases, customs management, which is key for all of our GTM customers, and the trade incentive programs, big interest in that now, especially given all the tariff talk that's been happening since the election. So really strong, robust product built right into the OTM architecture. Now back to transportation. Of course, the planning engines we have are the heart, besides the execution on the equivalent of the execution piece, the equivalent of agent workflow on the back end is really our engines, all of our algorithms that we run. And our multi-leg, multi-mode network routing is probably one of our strongest engines out there, because we can, and again, a differentiator, because we, when we launched this product, and then for the several years, there really wasn't anybody doing this same kind of multi-leg, multi-mode routing, where we're combining all these different modes, tying, moving one order across multiple geographies, tying all these different shipments together. It's kind of where we started, and we continue. Not surprisingly, I guess, because we get a lot of requests, we continue to enhance that area tremendously. And speaking of planning, there's a lot of applications where, in order to use them, you have to use their plan. In OTM, you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to. You can come into what I always like to say. You can enter OTM, GTM from anywhere, and start there and finish anywhere. So just use any part of our system without having to add all the prerequisites. So you can run our system with just shipments. You don't need orders. You can run just the order management piece of our system. You don't need to plan things. You can just run. We have implementations where people just use it for freight pay. They don't use any of the planning. So you can do all of that. You can use it for just tendering. You can use it for just track and trace. It's best to use it end to end, but you don't have to. You can start anywhere. And in fact, if you're new to it and you have a project, it's often good to start somewhere where you can get a gain. You can get show some return, so you get some positive feedback from your users, and then expand into kind of a broader implementation. I had mentioned kind of our planning piece. Our planning piece is driven by all the algorithms. You see we have a bunch of algorithms inside of here. This isn't even the half of it, because we also have multi-stop, kind of a number of things just inside of multi-stop. And we believe that flexibility has really allowed people to, it's not just planning engine comes out with, best cost. Planning engine comes out with best cost based on your rules. And that's kind of one of the key differentiators. We also have, I put up our 3D load building, but I think this shows like what we have a number of different ways to kind of build a container, build a shipment, whether it's weight-based, cube-based, ERU or pieces-based, or 3D. We have a number. So if you have the data for 3D, it's great. It's built right into the algorithm. You can design it based on the size of your packages. If you don't and you just have weight, you can use weight. But we support all those different capabilities. And then I mentioned the planning piece before. Not only do we, like I said, we can come out with a best cost solution, but we can also come out with a best cost solution that takes into account your capacity constraints, your commitments that you make to your carriers, so that we can deliver coming out of the algorithm, instead of doing it after the fact, coming out of the algorithm, we can deliver a plan that meets those requirements as well. And then, as I mentioned, we have embedded analytics inside of OTM. But even beyond that, you can run the analytics that we provide, but they're tied to transportation. You can also, we have the ability to feed, if you're an Oracle Fusion customer, Oracle Fusion has a data warehouse. We can feed OTM, GTM data into that data warehouse, so you can use it with Oracle's ERP. Or we have the ability to extract data out of the system to feed your own data warehouse. So all those capabilities are in the system. What you use is kind of up to you and what your company wants you to support. We also have built in our modeling tool. So we call it LNN, Logistics Network Modeling. It is our kind of competitive products are really outside. They're products that are standalone, so you'd have to extract data and use those tools to do different types of modeling. We do it right inside the product, so you can. When you buy this, you actually get an extra pod to do the analysis, but it works off of all the data you've already set up. So it's using your rates, your shipments, your orders, but it won't change them. It just uses them as input to do the modeling, and you just put in what type of scenario you want to run, how you want to change the data, and it'll run that scenario for you. We've also, as I mentioned, back in 2009, we delivered Fleet, our embedded fleet application, and I'd say, this also has, competes against some direct fleet applications. Our version of Fleet is really best if you have a kind of combination of carriers and fleet, and you want to kind of make the right choice between which, what business fleet does and what business carriers do. That's kind of the strength of what we've delivered in our fleet management piece. And of course, freight settlement, as I mentioned, some people just use our application for freight settlement, but it's more than just settlement, it's more than just payment. We have a really strong allocation engine which will allocate those costs down to the order line in some cases if you want to do that. You can do match and pay, auto pay, number of different capabilities. We've had this piece in there for 20 plus years, and really solid piece of the system. Relatively new, probably in the last 5+ years, we've added Digital Assistant, which is that, kind of, hey Siri, tell me where my order is. So we have a nice example of where we've taken our logistics background, built what's called skills, logistics skills, into a good Oracle technology product for which is a digital assistant. So we have a digital assistant trained for logistics. And again, also more recently, we've always had some reporting capabilities in for sustainability, but in the last couple of years, we've really enhanced and built out some strong features around sustainability to be able to calculate, analyze, and plan based on sustainability metrics. And I think we'll be presenting that. If you're interested in that, attend a later session. I think it's today or tomorrow. Also, I know we have a lot of AI stuff that Srini's going to talk about in our roadmap. I didn't put AI into Gen AI into our 25 years because it didn't fall technically inside of 25 years because we're delivering it now. But we do have embedded machine learning capabilities inside of OTM, and predicting shipment ETA prediction is one of the big ones that we have. We also have an order planning one that we support. This area will be growing. I think in addition to our Gen AI, but this area, as I mentioned, requires the autonomous database to deliver it. So for those of you that aren't on there yet, you'll be getting on there soon. But it does. Again, similar to our other capabilities, we're using some great Oracle technology, and we're building the logistics smarts behind, kind of shaping that machine learning engine into a plan. So you don't have to do this. You don't have to be a data scientist to use this. We're taking care of that side of it. You just have to kind of run the training. It's a machine learning is where you train the model, and then the model runs in the background. And last, number 25, is the right cloud. So as I mentioned, in 2014, we moved from just going on-prem to delivering a SaaS solution in the cloud. We, being the development team, designed that cloud, designed what's the architecture we want to run on, and what's the how do we want to configure the database, the application server, and so on and so forth. And it's all built on top of this really robust cloud that all of the Oracle SaaS applications run on. So it's you'll hear the term OCI for Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. That's the infrastructure that we run on, that all of our applications do. And I would say I've had a couple of consultants come up and say, hey, what are you guys doing around AI? Because we want to add on. We want to add on as well, and we're getting a lot of requests from our customers. And my advice would be, we're obviously, Srini will talk about some of the things we're adding. I wouldn't spend any time there since we're doing it. But if you're going to do it, I would use the OCI tools for AI, because that's exactly what we're going to use. And that way, if your customers are using our AI, it's a real easy lift for them to use, kind of your bolt-on AI stuff. Okay, just the last couple of topics. Well, I'm doing all right. Okay, in 25B, we are delivering for I think the first time. We've always had a lot of documentation. We are delivering a best practices documentation, and you should be able to see it out there now, I believe. I think some of our 25B documentation is dropping now. What I ask, so this is, I just talked about our cloud. One of the great advantages that I find in our cloud is that we're able to see how everybody's running from the back end. We're not allowed to, for security reasons, we're not allowed to go inside your system and look at your data. But from the back end, we can look at the database, we can look at queries, we can look at the app server, we can see how many threads are running, what those threads are running. And we can tell which systems are running well and which systems are not running well. And usually, if they're not running well, there's an SR associated. If someone says, hey, this is running slow, or this having some problems, this isn't working right. So as a result, we've been able to kind of know, number one, that our system's running well because 95% of our customers, 99, are running just fine. There's maybe a blip with a few. But we've also been able to kind of look at it and see recurring things that happen, and recurring kind of configuration mistakes or things that people don't understand about the system, which we don't want to drop into just any documentation and have it get lost. So we put it together inside of this best practices document. And right now it exists inside of the admin manual. There's a chapter on best practices. It's pretty light right now. It's just, we wanted to get it started. What I would encourage you to do is read it, look it over, especially anybody that's a consultant in the room, and send us feedback. If you read it and you say, wow, that's crazy, I wouldn't have thought that, let us know. Or you say, wow, I use that all the time, why are you telling me not to? But send us that feedback, and also send us any ideas. Like you say, hey, this is a good best practice, why don't you add it to your list? But we're going to continue to grow this piece because we think it's really valuable to get people to look at it and implement things in a standard way. Another piece, we are, as I mentioned, kind of in some other sessions, not just OTM, but all of Oracle is working on kind of a new, modern user interface. We call it Redwood. That's kind of an internal name. If you use any of our Oracle Fusion or ERP products, you'll see that starting to be released in this year, 25B, C, D. There's going to be some changes to their user interface. We're going to deliver on that same type of user interface, much more modern, you won't see some of the legacy things you see today inside of OTM. So when we do release it, and there might be some things in 25C, probably more in 26A, where you'll see some of these things start to release. I recommend, again, the same kind of thing. Try it. Send us feedback. But it's coming, so it's not something we're going to change. You won't. It'll mean, for some of your users, they won't be able to navigate necessarily the same way or run the same exact function, but they will have typically a better way to do it, typically a more less confusing way to do it. It is a very good, and we have hundreds of people at Oracle that just do user interface design, and this has come out of their kind of strategy for modernizing all of Oracle's user interfaces. And Kathy's going to talk about this in her session, so I encourage you to look at that. She's going to go over some of the things we're doing there. And then speaking of also futures, we have been delivering JSON REST from an API perspective for the last 5+ years. And it is at kind of, especially with 25C coming out, where we're going to have some replace children capability. It is now kind of functionally equivalent with all of the XML web services. So we're going to be we're not going to get rid of XML. We know everybody's using it still, but we are going to put all of our new investments or any new features we build, any new fields, they're going into the JSON REST fields. They won't be going into XML. So that should be a kind of sign to you as like, hey, if I'm doing some new project, I should probably do it in JSON REST, because that's where I'm going to get kind of the new features. So that'll probably, again, we're 25C is probably an inflection point. We're still doing both JSON and XML in 25C. After that, it'll be, with probably a few exceptions, it'll be mostly JSON we're focusing on. And lastly, I didn't cover WMS in this session because Kunal's going to do a whole session on it, similar to what I've talked about with OTM. But this is the first year. the first event where we've had the two combined. I think it's a great idea because we are internally doing a lot to combine or integrate the products tighter as well. You'll see some they're out there already, some of our what we call our recipes inside of our integration cloud for tying the products together. And we're going to be delivering, you'll see some more things around parcel integration where we have a much tighter flow for parcel integration between the products. So I encourage you to attend Kunal's session, attend the other sessions that we have about integration between WMS. And if you're not using it, you're using just OTM, take a look at it because it's a really good, strong product.